I love Prime Minister's questions. It's one of my favorite fucking things in the world. So this is the Labor leader. What the fuck is his name here? I mean, Tim Kern or some shit like that. I'm fucking it up.
Come the Prime Minister.
Starmer. I was way off. Tim Kern. Keir Starmer. Sir Keir Starmer is the Labor leader. Am I off on the way I'm pronouncing his name, Warlord?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I welcome the Prime Minister. The first British Asian Prime Minister is a significant moment in our national story. And it's a reminder that for all the challenges we face...
It says Keir.
Britain is a place where people of all races and all beliefs can fulfil their dreams. That's not true in every country, and many didn't think that they would live to see the day when it would be true here. It's part of what makes us all so proud to be British.
They sounded so enthusiastic.
To resign last week for a breach of security.
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, can I thank the honourable gentleman for his kind and indeed generous welcome to the dispatch box. I look forward to Prime Minister's question time with him, and I know that we will have robust exchanges, but I hope that they can also be serious and grown up. So I look forward to it. Well, he asked about the Home Secretary. The Home Secretary made an error of judgment, but she recognised that. She raised the matter and she accepted her mistake. And that's why I was delighted to welcome back into a united cabinet that brings experience and stability to the heart of government. And let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, what the Home Secretary will be focused on. She'll be focused on cracking down on criminals, on defending our borders, while the party opposite remains soft on crime and in favour...
Now, last night, the chat kind of pointed out that he sounded to the left of Joe Biden. Now that you're getting a taste of it, perhaps it's a little more of the conservative brand we're used to.
Of unlimited immigration.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister stood on the steps of Downing Street and promised integrity, professionalism and accountability. But then, with his first act, he appointed a Home Secretary who was sacked by his predecessor a week ago for deliberately pinging around sensitive Home Office documents from her personal account. Far from soft on crime, I ran the Crown Prosecution Service.
Allow me to translate. She pulled a Hillary. She pulled a Hillary, is what he just said.
For 5 years. I worked with Home Secretaries to take on terrorists and serious organised crime. And I know firsthand how important it is that we have a Home Secretary whose integrity and professionalism are beyond question. So, have officials raised concerns about his decision to appoint her?
Mr. Speaker, I just addressed the issue with the Home Secretary, but he talked about fighting crime. I would hope, Mr. Speaker, I would hope that he would welcome. I would hope that as we look forward, he would welcome the news today that
Alias 43. Good evening.
New police officers on our street.
Yeah, they get rowdy over there in the House of Commons.
The Home Secretary will be supporting them to tackle burglaries, while the party opposite will be backing the lunatic protesting fringe that are stopping working people going about their lives. Keir Starmer.
Well, Mr. Speaker.
Can we point out how diverse the Conservative coalition is over here on the left side?
I listened carefully. That was clearly not a no. We can all see what's happened here. He's so weak, he's done a grubby deal, trading national security because he was scared to lose another leadership election. There's a new Tory at the top, but as always with them, party first, country second. Yesterday, on the steps of Downing Street, he also admitted what the whole country knows. The Tories have crashed the economy, and now somebody has to pay for their mess. I say it shouldn't be working people who've been hammered time and again by this lot. but those with the broadest shoulders must step up. Does he agree?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman talked about party first and country second. Perhaps he could explain to us why it was a few years ago he was supporting the member for Islington North.
Apparently that was a burn.
Mr. Speaker.
and this lady right here with the cool dreads right behind Sunak, like, she thought that was a hell of a burn, too. She was amazed by it. She's like, oh, shit, no, he didn't.
My record is clear. When times are difficult in this country, I will always protect the most vulnerable. That is the values of our compassionate party. We did it in COVID and we will do that again.
Mr. Speaker, he says he'll protect the most vulnerable. Let's test that. The government currently allows very rich people to live here but register abroad for tax purposes. I don't need to explain to the Prime Minister how non-dom status works. He already knows all about that. It costs the Treasury £3.2 billion every year. Why doesn't he put his money where his mouth is and get rid of it?
Why don't he put his wait a minute.
I have been honest. We will have to take difficult decisions to restore economic stability and confidence. And my honourable friend, the Chancellor, will set that out in an autumn statement in just a few weeks. But what I can say, as we did during COVID, we will always protect the most vulnerable. We will do this in a fair way. But what I can say, I am glad, Mr. Speaker, that the party opposite, honourable gentleman, has finally realised that spending does need to be paid for. It is a novel concept for the party opposite. This government is going to restore economic stability and we will do it in a fair and compassionate way.
Austerity is what I heard during his speech yesterday.
Listen, what's been going on the last 2 But anyway, I have to say, I'm surprised he's still defending non-dom status. He pretends he's on the side of working people, but in private he says something very different. Over the summer, he was secretly recorded at a garden party in Tunbridge Wells, boasting to a group of Tory members that he personally moved money away from deprived areas to wealthy places instead. Rather than apologise or pretend that he meant something else, why doesn't he now do the right thing and undo the changes that he made to those funding formulas?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I know the right honourable gentleman rarely leaves North London. But if he does, he will know that there are deprived areas in our rural communities, in our coastal communities, and across the south, and this government will relentlessly support them because we are a government that will deliver for people across the United Kingdom. But Mr. Speaker, he mentioned the last few weeks. I am the first to admit that mistakes were made, and that's the reason I am standing here. But that is the difference between him and me. This summer, I was being honest about the difficulties that we were facing. But when he ran for leader, he promised his party he would borrow billions and billions of pounds. I told the truth for the good of the country. He told his party what it wanted to hear. Leadership is not selling fairy tales. It is confronting challenges, and that is the leadership the British people will get from this government.
Rebuttal from Labour?
I think everyone should watch the video and make their own minds up. In public, he claims he wants to level up the north, but then he boasts about trying to funnel vital investment away from deprived areas. He says one thing and does another. But they're shouting. They're not my words. They're not my words. They're the words of the former chair of the Tory party, sacked yesterday for telling the truth about the Prime Minister. Even his own side know he's not on the side of working people. That's why the only time he ran in a competitive election, he got trounced by the former Prime Minister, who herself got beaten by a lettuce. So why doesn't he put it to the test?
Oh!
Working people have their say and call a general election.
Yes.
Well, it'll take a long time to get through this paper if we carry on like this, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about mandates, about votes, about elections. It's a bit rich coming from the person who tried to overturn the biggest democratic vote in our country's history. Our mandate is based on a manifesto.
Is he referring to Brexit?
To remind him an election that we won and they lost. A mandate that says we want a stronger NHS, better schools, safer streets, control of our borders and levelling up. That is the mandate that I and this government will deliver for the British people.
So there you can tell why I love Prime Minister's questions so much. It's like a rap battle for politicians. I wish we did that here in the United States. Just let people grill the fucking president. It's amazing, and that's why I would have covered it this morning had I caught it like 15 minutes sooner. I was like, oh shit. The first thing that Labour brought up, though, was the appointment of Suella Braverman, who had been fired just a week ago by the previous Prime Minister, Liz Truss. Who is Suella Braverman, and why is her new appointment so controversial? Labour accused Rishi Sunak of doing a grubby deal with his Home Secretary. Tory MP Suella Braverman has been made Home Secretary just 6 days after she was forced to resign the same post over a serious security breach. Her reappointment by the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has sparked a fresh political row. Opposition parties have accused the PM of making a grubby deal with Braverman and demanded a Cabinet Office inquiry. The MP for Farman, who is on the right of her party, holds one of the great offices of state and is effectively in charge of the United Kingdom security. Here, HuffPost UK talks you through who she is and why her reappointment has proved so controversial. Braverman was born in Harrow, northwest London, grew up in Wembley. I don't want her full fucking biography. Braverman was elected as the Tory MP for Farman in May of 2015 after attempts in other seats, including Leicester East in 2005 against Labour's Keith Vaz. The Brexiteer served on a series of parliamentary committees and campaigned for the UK to leave the European Union. I watched a documentary on Brexit last night, and apparently it's going far worse than I was even aware. Braverman was promoted to parliamentary private secretary to the Treasury, and in 2018 made a junior minister for exiting the European Union. However, she resigned following November among the so-called Spartans who quit Theresa May's government over her draft Brexit deal. She was made Attorney General by Boris Johnson in February of 2020. I don't fucking... Leicester? Sounds like some shit from Game of Thrones. Lannister? Ballister? I don't fucking know. In her role as the government's lawyer, Braverman said she was carefully considering whether to refer the case to the Court of Appeal after a jury cleared 4 protesters of criminal damage. In the toppling of the Colston statue, when the European Court of Human Rights intervened in June of 2022 to ground a deportation flight of asylum seekers to Rwanda, Braverman said it was time to complete Brexit and let the British people decide who can and cannot stay in our country. She became a key figure in the so-called culture wars waged by the government under Johnson. In one interview, Braverman expressed her pride at being a child of the British Empire, which she claimed had been a force for good. By the way, for those of you who can't tell, Suella Braverman is I assume she's Indian. She is definitely ethnic. Those of you listening to the podcast, So, maybe surprising, but you could liken it to Latinos here in the U.S. who tend to be more conservative. Braverman has also attacked civil servants, accusing them of frustrating Brexit due to their Remain bias. Braverman was first made Home Secretary by Truss in September of 2022. During her short tenure, she clashed with the Prime Minister over immigration and broke with the government line by saying she wanted to return to David Cameron's target of fewer than 100,000 newcomers a year. She also raised eyebrows with a bizarre speech in the Commons in which she attacked the Guardian reading Tufo-eating wokerati. The Guardian reading Tufo-eating wokerati. After just 6 weeks in the job, Braverman resigned, saying she made a mistake by sending an official document from her private email account. She admitted she had breached the ministerial code by sending the restricted document to fellow right-wing MP Sir John Hayes. It also transpired that Braverman accidentally copied in someone she believed was Sir John's wife, but was in fact an aide to Conservative MP Andrew Percy, who raised the alarm. She argued it was merely a draft written ministerial statement on immigration, which had been due for publication imminently. As she stood down, Braverman took a swipe at Truss, saying, "Pretending we haven't made mistakes, carrying on as if can't see that we have made them, and hoping that things will magically come right is not serious politics." Braverman said she had serious concerns about the government's commitment to honoring manifesto commitments on immigration and boat crossing. Braverman made a sensational return as Home Secretary just 6 days after resigning from the same role under Truss's government. Despite effectively breaking the ministerial code twice, she was back as one of the most senior and influential ministers in the government. Cabinet Secretary Simon Case, the most senior civil servant, is said to be livid over her swift return and very concerned about the breach. Her appointment has also promoted a major backlash from opposition parties who say Sunak has trashed his pledge to restore integrity. So there you have it. That's what's going on over in the UK.